السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. لعل الرابطة الدولية للمحامين الديمقراطيين لا تسعى فقط إلى التشبيك مع دول أو أعضاء حول العالم، بل تعمل على إجراء البحوث حول القضايا القانونية التي تؤثر على حقوق الإنسان، وتنظم لجان التحقيق الدولية والمؤتمرات ذات الصلة، وتشارك في بعثات المراقبين القانونيين الدوليين. مع الأمين العام للرابطة الدولية للمحامين الديمقراطيين فيرمون من بلجيكا نتحدث من الداخل عن الانتهاكات القانونية في المنطقة العربية، حيث تبقى المقاومة هي مفتاح العدالة ضد الجرائم الإمبريالية. معكم زينب صفار، تابعونا. لعل المحامي البلجيكي فيرمون من شبكة المحامين التقدميين البلجيكية يشدد على أهمية خوض الصراعات القانونية، حتى عندما دعا الناس إلى التخلص من نظام العدالة الجنائية الفاحش، وقال إنه على الرغم من الحقيقة أن قلة قليلة من الأفراد تسيطر فعليا على غالبية الثروة والسلطة السياسية في هذا الكوكب، لا تزال هناك آليات لتحقيق العدالة لضحايا الإمبريالية والهيمنة. ويذكر فيرمون على سبيل المثال اتفاقيات جنيف التي يمكن استخدامها لمقاضاة الجرائم الإمبريالية، بالإضافة إلى العديد من هيئات الأمم المتحدة والمقررين الخاصين للأمم المتحدة والمحاكم الشعبية الدولية، حيث تناقش المظالم ضد الجرائم الإمبريالية ويتم إعلام الجمهور بها. ويؤكد فيرمون أن النضال القانوني هو ثانوي للحركة الشعبية الجماهيرية من حيث الفعالية في فتح الجرائم الإمبريالية ومقاضاتها، ذلك أن الكفاح ضد الإمبريالية هو في الأساس معركة الشعب، والمحامون التقدميون موجودون لتقديم المساعدة فقط. فيرمون الأمين العام للاتحاد الدولي للمحامين الديمقراطيين من بلجيكا، المحامي الشهير في مجلس نقابة المحامين في بروكسل منذ عام 1989، المتخصص في القانون البلجيكي والأوروبي والقانون الجنائي الدولي والقانون الإنساني الدولي وقانون الهجرة، والذي أولى اهتماما خاصا بالصراع في اليمن وقانونية هذا الصراع. يحدثنا عن هذه الرابطة القانونية والقضايا التي تدافع عنها وتتصدى لها والمنتمين إليها، وطبيعة تنسيقهم ومع من، وإلى أي حد يكرسون اهتماما خاصا للعمليات الاستراتيجية ولمكافحة المظالم البنيوية ولإطلاق الكفاح القانوني.
The International Association of Democratic Lawyers actually has a very rich history. It's an organization which was founded in 1946, immediately after the Second World War. In fact, it was born together with the UN Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was presented to the UN General Assembly by René Cassin, who was the first president of our association. Our association has stood since with people's struggle throughout the world, the struggle of the Palestinian people, the struggle of the Algerian people against French colonialism, the struggle of the people of South Africa against apartheid. Many of our lawyers were active in the struggle against apartheid. Some of those who are still there today were in the legal team of Nelson Mandela. And so that's, I think, one of the specificities of our organization, of the International Association of Democratic Lawyers, that is precisely that we think that there are no human rights without people's rights.
Exactly.
That you can't realize human rights if the people's rights, the people's collective rights to peace, to sovereignty, to decide on their own fate, are not realized.
Self-determination, yes.
This question of self-determination is at the center of the creation of a situation in which the other human rights can be realized. And so that has always been the stand of our organization, and it's still today. We think that if you look at today's world...
Despite all the political shifts and the political paradigms that are taking place today, you are still in line of defending human rights.
Yes, because we think that, well, not only human rights, but people's rights also, because we think that the Charter of the United Nations, which is precisely the expression of this idea that there can be no human rights without people's rights, the Charter was the result of people's struggle. It was the result of the struggle of people in Europe, in China, and throughout the world against fascism. People were confronted with the barbary of fascism, fought it, defeated fascism, and then actually created the United Nations and adopted the Charter of the United Nations, which expresses the idea that war is the worst violation of human rights, and that without the right of self-determination for the people, without the sovereign equality of the people, of the people of the world, there can be no progress and no human rights throughout the globe.
Exactly. Now, how can we make sure, or are you, sir, sure that the current human rights situation in the Arab region, in the West Asia region, was not forgotten, and that it is still on the agenda of associations and human rights bodies?
Well, first of all, it's still on our agenda because we see that
because I mean, regarding what's taking place in our countries, in our part of the world, people are questioning who is just, turning an eye when it comes to the breach and the direct violation of human rights.
Well, I think to some extent that is not a unique situation because before the people of the world came aware of the atrocities committed by the United States in Vietnam, that was to some extent also a forgotten war. And later, when our governments, the European governments, the United States, supported the apartheid regime in South Africa, it also took time before the people of the world realized what was going on and actually started supporting the liberation movement. And I think in the same way today, the conflict in this area, of course we are now in times where information circulates much faster, but where also disinformation circulates much faster than the real information. So people are more aware of the existence of the conflict, but still have a lot of disinformation to digest. And there are still some forgotten conflicts. If I look at what is published in our press in Europe on Yemen, it's really almost nothing. It's very small articles about the situation in Yemen. From time to time, a small article, while this conflict is absolutely atrocious and is a terrible conflict.
The worst across the world,
without any doubt, one of the worst, if not the worst conflict. It's creating for the Yemeni people a terrible situation, terrible violations of all fundamental rights, and in the newspapers in Europe, it's still half a column. It's a small article.
I have to stop now, though, for a short break, and then afterwards we're going to detail on this issue after the break. إذا فاصل قصير ونعود، لا تذهبوا بعيدا.
فيرمون المحامي الدولي والأمين العام للاتحاد الدولي للمحامين الديمقراطيين من بلجيكا، وفي خلال الجلسة 31 من مجلس حقوق الإنسان في الأمم المتحدة بيّن حججا قوية جدا داعيا إلى وقف استثمارات المملكة السعودية وكذلك فرض العقوبات الاقتصادية وحظر الأسلحة عليها، ودان قرار انتخاب مسؤولين سعوديين لترأس لجنة حقوق الإنسان، مفيدا بأن ذلك منحهم القوة ليقرروا وضع معايير حقوق الإنسان عالميا، كما مكنهم من سحق الناشطين الحقوقيين تحت مظلة مجلس حقوق الإنسان التابع للأمم المتحدة. فيرمون يناقش من الداخل عدم قانونية الحرب على اليمن.
I think it's an illegal war because actually there is, of course, a myth of legitimacy on the officially recognized government. But I think the question of legitimacy of the government is not only a matter, and is not primarily a matter, of recognition by the international community and by a few, especially by the United States, by some by the European countries. I think the problem of legitimacy of that government is a problem for the Yemeni people. It's the Yemeni people who should decide which is their legitimate government. What I can see is that for many years now, the Yemeni people have not been given the opportunity to express themselves on who should be their leaders, first of all. And secondly, we can also see that after the start of the conflict, the Yemeni people have set up their own institutions, have set up a government, have set up a parliament, and were able to create sovereign institutions which represent them. And it is not because the United States don't like that government, or because the United States don't like those institutions, that they are not legitimate. So in the meanwhile, I think one should admit, the international community should admit, that the internationally recognized government, which actually is a puppet government from Saudi Arabia and from the United States, has no legitimacy at all with the Yemeni people. And that the Yemeni people should be given the opportunity immediately to express themselves on who has to lead their country. And I think the result is, without any doubt, will be clear. Because the Yemeni people, through their actions, through the institutions they create, but also to the popular support shown to those institutions, have very clearly said who they want to lead the country.
Who?
Well, I think the government that has been created now, the so-called rebel government, which actually represents, I think, the people of Yemen.
So this is their decision.
It's their decision, and that is their sovereign decision. And the legitimacy of a government, the legitimacy of should not depend on international recognition, but should depend on the will of the people. That is actually the sense of the common Article 2 of the UN covenants on civil and political and on economic and social rights, which clearly says that the people, the most fundamental right of the people, is to have self-determination, to choose their political system, to choose their leaders, to choose the economic system they wish to build. And therefore, I think the legitimacy of those institutions set up by the Yemeni people should be recognized by the international community, including by countries like the United States and European countries, which should then lead to the conclusion that the military action undertaken to support the puppet government, which has no legitimacy,
the Saudi-led
action, military action, to support a puppet government which doesn't have any legitimacy anymore, is actually an act of aggression against the country.
Which entails?
Well, aggression is, of course, a crime under international law. It's a violation of the UN Charter. It's a violation of international law. And so I think the expression of the will regarding their leaders and their system by the Yemeni people should be recognized, and the automatic result of that would be that any military action undertaken against the country to remove that government which has popular legitimacy is illegal and is a crime of aggression.
Right. Here, what about the challenges faced with prosecuting war criminals and enforcing judgments? All the court cases related to international events like war or international terrorism are highly political, sensitive issues and questions. The problem is to find some way to get accountability and justice for the victims. That is the main aim of any lawsuit that you pursue, sir. Is it possible to prosecute Saudi leaders by the International Criminal Court at The Hague?
Actually, the International Criminal Court does not allow to prosecute Saudi leaders because neither Yemen nor Saudi Arabia ratified the Rome Statute, which is the basis of the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. And so there are only two ways to establish the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. It's either if one of the parties in the conflict or some participants in the conflict have ratified the Rome Statute, or when the Security Council refers the case to the International Criminal Court. Mm-hmm. Now, it's very clear that with the US veto, the case will not be referred to the International Criminal Court by the Security Council. So there are some possibilities, because, of course, there are countries participating in the conflict, countries that are participating in the aggression, which did ratify the Rome Statute. And I think also we have to look carefully into the responsibility of some of the Western countries in this in the
arms sales, and
not only in the arms sales, but I've been informed I heard at several opportunities that, for example, British officers are participating in directing the bombings on Yemen. That might create criminal responsibility on behalf of these officers and the British leaders for these acts. But Saudi Arabia, unfortunately, is a more complicated problem, because Saudi Arabia didn't ratify the Rome Statute, and Yemen didn't either. So on Saudi Arabia, I think we will have to look for other paths to bring Saudi leaders to justice.
But one of the repercussions of the war and aggression against countries is also trying to deal a decisive blow to the civilization of this country, to the culture of this country. I mean, this is not only the heritage of the Yemenis or the heritage of the Iraqis or of the Syrians, it's a heritage for mankind.
Yes.
So are you also taking any active steps in this regard?
Well, again, we can take the active steps
we are
asked to do and that we are invited to make, because, lawyers don't change the world. Lawyers can help people to try
find
to change,
the best way,
to change something in the world. But yes, of course, the destruction of history and of cultural heritage is a very important matter. We brought, actually, I brought at some point a case for war crimes in Iraq committed by the US troops in Iraq, and precisely one of the points there was the destruction of the museum and the pillage of the museum. Exactly. But today, I think we can see, especially with what happened in Syria, Daesh, the action of Daesh, a political project like the one Daesh is trying to promote, which is a criminal, genocidal project, it also has to destroy history, because it's the negation of history. It's the negation of the collective wisdom and the collective development of mankind from the past. And so we are not surprised that organizations like Daesh, with their criminal project, are also turning not only against men, but also against every I would say, symbol of the past, everything that mankind has left to us, monuments, historical, they have to destroy it to be able to make a criminal project like theirs pass.
Yes, Mr. Furman, I cannot let you go without asking you something about Syria. Are the Syrian people in charge of their peace today?
I think it's very clear that Syria has suffered from an aggression by proxy. Of course, criminal groups like Daesh, with their criminal genocidal ideology, were used by the United States mainly to try to destroy Syria and the unity of Syria. Because I think the United States, for some time now, and also, unfortunately, some European countries, have a project to destroy or to dominate this part of the world, not anymore by strong leaders which they support, because they saw that sometimes goes wrong. The Shah of Iran they tried to dominate the whole region through the Shah of Iran, and then Iran was a strong country but turned against them.
Exactly.
I think one of the lessons they took from that is that they probably are in a better position if they try to dominate the region by chaos. Because if you can
constructive instability.
If you have everybody fighting everybody, especially on sectarian lines, then you can play with that. It's the old Roman principle of divide and rule. You can support one group against the other and then at some point change alliances.
Separate and rule.
You can also sell weapons to everybody, which in a time of crisis is a very important matter for the U.S. economy, for example.
Exactly.
Because all this, of course, has roots in the economic crisis. In the fact that the U.S. needs to create this kind of situation both for strategic and for economic reasons. So Syria was a major obstacle in that plan. And I think the reason Syria has undergone such a terrible aggression is because precisely it was a key to stop that kind of plan. It was a key to stop this criminal plan of division and perpetual war in the area. And so the Syrian people, of course, deserved to be supported in that struggle against this criminal project. Unfortunately, they were, instead of being supported, they were heavily attacked by the US and by some of our governments also in the political field. And I think now that the military problem has probably been more or less settled, I think in the next stage, probably some of the Western countries will try to wage a legal battle and a political battle against Syria to try to achieve what they were not able to achieve through the war and through aggression. So we will have to be very careful on that, and we will have to stand with the Syrian people to avoid that second or to fight that second battle in the war.
Jan Furman, Secretary General of the International Association of Democratic Lawyers from Belgium. Many thanks indeed for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure, always, sir. إذا لقاء جديد في الأسبوع المقبل مع ضيف جديد وقضية جديدة ودائما من الداخل. للمزيد من التواصل بريدنا theinside@almayadeen.net وصفحتنا على الفيسبوك من الداخل من كل فريق عمل برنامج من كل الميادين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.